Hello ladies and gentlemen, I decided to make this its own video. If you've already watched CRAPPYPASTAS number 14, the anthology, then you don't need to watch this video. But if you just want to sit here and listen to the loving melody of John the Killer, then I feel sorry for you. I wouldn't blame you if you just... Oh god, that's not how memories work. Ladies and gentlemen, this is John the Killer, and I hope that you guys are... coming out of this, okay. John, to the person who wrote John the Killer, you have some ability to write, but dude, the story's terrible, and we need to make fun of it. So with that being said, let's begin. Red Dan, come on bro, you can do a lot better. Everyone knows the story of Jeff the Killer, right? Everyone mostly knows about Jane / Jeff's attempt to make someone like him, and everyone knows that it didn't really work out. But does everyone know the story of John? Now Jeff has been on a rampage for the last 3 years. He's approximately 16 now. Jeff was stalking and doing his, you know, whole thing, trying to stay away from Jane. The usual. But still, even if Jeff wasn't capable of normal thought anymore, he still kind of felt a little lonely. Oh my god! There was a slight emptiness that Jane was supposed to fill. So much for that. Jeff had a new idea. He decided if a type of lover would reject him, maybe a little brother type person wouldn't. He was in town of West Valley. Pretty small town. Jeff wouldn't be able to stay long without getting caught, and in time he noticed a young boy about 13 who seemed absolutely perfect for such a thing. The kid was kinda nerdy, awkward, and he was picked on a lot. Just watching those bullies made Jeff angry, and it caused him to remember the parts of himself that he had locked up for many years. John wouldn't take it though. He often fought back and in that moment Jeff saw something in John's eyes. Just a small spark of pleasure from fighting. It reminded Jeff of him in some ways. That feeling that Jeff could only explain as an odd feeling from the past that he now fully understands what it was. John had no idea he was about to become Jeff's latest victim. John felt an odd feeling when he fought, sure, but he never really gave it much thought as an employee, as an enjoyable feeling, so he really was cared about. John hadn't known anyone was watching him fight back. If maybe he could have gotten away from what was going to happen to him. Maybe he would be able to do something to prevent it. John wasn't really much to do damage to bullies, but enough to keep him away from him for a little while. John went about the rest of his day with that feeling. The next day, there was a news report. 3 bullies were killed today in Park Avenue. No one witnessed the event, however, based on how they were killed, police suspect the same unknown killer who has been murdering people all across the country killed him. A young boy survived this killer once, and he is known to be the only person who ever saw him. The description was chilling, but we can assume he is now in West Valley. John had of course heard rumors of this killer, but never expected him to be in his own hometown. John was even more surprised when he realized that the victims were the bullies that were picking on him yesterday. Was that just a weird coincidence? John was confused as to why them specifically, but once again didn't think too much about it. What John didn't know is that Jeff simply had done it as a favor to John. The next day, the same as any other to John, the teachers at the school told the students something this unusual could cause... God, this is terribly written. The teachers at the school told the students that something this unusual could cause stress for students, so that they had to go mandatory counseling session, which is not something that they would do at most normal schools. In fact, I've had people die of murder and we wouldn't have to go to counseling. Only those who were actually involved at the parties had the option to. John eventually had go, even though really didn't want to. The conversation went something like this. Hello, John Williams. How are you today? The counselor asked in a sweet voice. Fine, John replied, not really wanting to be there. You already told us he didn't want to be there. Stop with the redundancy. So how have you been reacting to the tragedy? How do you feel about it? She asked. I don't really know them very well. It's obviously sad, but I'm not affected all that much, John replied honestly. She wrote down what he had said and told him he could go, and if he needed to talk, he'd go see her. It wasn't long until Jane heard news of the report. Jeff hadn't left much evidence for a few months now. She had hoped that he just died somewhere. Maybe he died, I don't know. So the trail on Jeff was warm again. But West Valley is such a small town, Jane said. What could Jeff be possibly doing? Oh my God, are we really bringing her into the story? She didn't want to wait to find out, so she set herself off for West Valley. She wasn't very concerned about what Jeff wanted there, just concerned about finally killing him. She only wanted the last part of his nightmare of her life to end. The real nightmare was just beginning for John that night. The nightly routine was normal for John. Homework, dinner, TV, video games, sometimes both, then bed. But Jeff snuck in the middle of the night. John heard some noises in the downstairs section of the home and wanted to check. That's when he saw his mom. He saw her with a wound in her stomach. She was stabbed. John couldn't believe what he saw. Jeff was there with a blood-stained knife in his hand, an evil grin carved in his face. What the hell? John yelled at Jeff. And Jeff turned around with his still horrible grin. How could he see the horrible grin carved in his face if he wasn't even facing him to begin with? How does that make sense? Your back is turned to someone. So, okay, lovely. Lovely. Good consistency story. John screamed and ran to the room to go get his father, who had a metal baseball bat, hopefully. When John... Wait, what? John screamed, ran from the room to go get his father, who had metal baseball bat, hopefully. What? When John arrived in the room, however, Jeff somehow beat him to it. John walked in just in time to see Jeff stab his father. Just go to sleep, old man, Jeff said. John's dad let out yell and falls to the floor dead. No, stop it! John yelled, because, you know, 13-year-olds have very high-pitched voices and are not typically the best, you know. You don't need them, Jeff said. I'm the only family you'll need. That voice John thought was a horrible, evil voice. It chilled him to his very bones. That voice was so full of malice, a sick type of joy. John ran with terror. Don't worry, my friend, I won't hurt you, Jeff called. Of course, you know, 16-year-old Jeff the killer will be chasing 13-year-old boys. That's lovely. John ran outside and bumped into Jane. Suddenly, John yelled again, worried that there were two of them now. Don't worry, you don't have to be afraid. I'm here to help, Jane said. Trust me. She looked like Jeff, but her voice was somewhat soothing and yet comforting. That darkness over her eyes made her seem soulless. We must hurry, she said. Jane grabbed John, ran fast away from home. Jeff only caught a glimpse of them running down. Darn it, Jane! He yelled angrily, even though his face had that permanent smile. That's an irrelevant fact. Jane had taken John back to the hotel room she was hiding out in during her stay. She knew for a fact that if Jeff wanted to kill John, he simply would have and that worried her even more. If he didn't simply want to kill John, what did he want? What the heck's going on? Who are you? Who was that guy? John yelled in a panic, completely not giving a fuck that both his parents are dead. Okay, first of all, to calm down, Jane said in the most manly voice she's ever had in her entire life. My name is Jane, and that guy was Jeff. It was too long of a story to explain, but he likes killing people, as you can tell. And I've made it my life's goal to finally stop him. As for what's going on, for some reason, he doesn't really want to kill you, and that concerns me, because you've only been saying that same damn line the entire fucking time. Stop being so redundant. John was still panicked by this whole thing. John was just as confused as Jane. He killed my parents, John said in his prepubescent teenager voice. He killed mine too, little boy. That's why I hate him so much. Jane replied, I will try to protect you from him. I will, but I can't promise anything. They kept on talking, discussing Jeff, and then they began to make a plan to kill him. Because of course you can fucking do- This is a 16-year-old! Oh my god! Why are we even discussing this? We're talking about a 13-year-old, a 16-year-old, and what I assume to be another 16-year-old's attempt to kill! Oh my god, this is like a lunchroom- Oh my god, their ages just killed a story. And the original Jeff the Killer, it made sense because Jeff was attacked and he defended himself and accidentally killed someone. Jeff defended himself. Jeff killed his own parents out of a psychotic episode that he had when he took some pain pills. Or at least that's what we think. And then those pain pills may have fucked him up in the head, or maybe the killing, or maybe the pain. I don't know. Something fucked his head. It made sense that he killed people. But we are talking about 13-year-olds and 16-year-olds trying to kill each other. It's like the Hunger Games, but shit. Rant over. Hello, Jane. As much as I would love to chat, I have some business to finish, he said, looking at John with that evil face. What kind of lies has my former girlfriend been feeding you? Jeff said. What the hell are you talking about? I would never date someone as vile as you, Jane said, clearly angry. Yeah, of course! You don't need to say that. You don't. Whatever details don't matter. I need John, Jeff said, completely interested in that 13-year-old male butt. He went after John, and Jane cut him off. It wasn't long until the two were caught in a fight. Both of them were out for blood. Jeff kept on swinging his knife at Jane. Jane was prepared to finally end Jeff, dodging his attacks and making swings of their own. Jane then swept under Jeff's legs, knocking them over. He then rolled out just before he jumped on him. Jeff moved swiftly as he grabbed John and hurried out of the room. Jane chased close behind. Man, he was fast. It wasn't long until Jeff ran into an abandoned warehouse with John. Wait, why can't she run as fast as him? He's carrying a 13-year-old kid. He's only 16 years old. He doesn't have super strength. That would clearly slow him down if John was, you know, running or like struggling easily. It would be easy for this chick to catch up. How the fuck would he? I'm the only family you'll need from now on, Jeff yelled. He pulled out a bottle of some kind of beer and he smashed it over John's head until he was soaking in it. Jeff then pulled out a bottle of bleach and poured it over John's head. I actually had some alcohol this time around. Stop it! What are you doing? John yelled. This will all be over soon, Jeff said as he pulled out a lighter and threw it at John. Jane came in just in time to hear John's horrible screams of pain and pure terror. Jeff just laughed and jumped out the nearby window. See you soon, brother. Jane had no time to go after Jeff. He had to put out John's face. Why the fuck does Jane give a shit about this kid? Just go after him. She then heard the police sirens and didn't want to leave John, but didn't want to be arrested for setting fire. I'll be back for you, she whispers and jumps out the window. When John woke up, he was in the hospital, bandages covering most of his face. Only a small opening was there for him to see out of. He tried saying, "Where am I?" But it was muffled by his covered mouth, and it just came out as, "Ah." "Oh God, you're awake," the nurse said, because he was a male nurse. Sexist! "It's been 2 weeks. We were worried." 2 weeks, he thought to himself. A few days had passed, and the nurse was taking care of him. They said that they would have to wait before removing the bandages. John was scared of what had to happen to him, but often felt he was having trouble remembering exactly what happened. All he knew for sure was that it scared him. It terrified him. When he mentioned to the nurse, she simply said that sometimes shock can blur the memories for a while afterwards. Then, strangely, shock causes people to remember the incident very clearly. Oh my God, the story is really fucking long. Okay. After a few more days, the doctors said that they would remove the coverings, and when they did, they all had a slight gasp. This confused John. "What?" he asked as he looked at a mirror, and was a little scared. His skin was complete paper white and leathery. His blonde white hair was still short, but now burnt black. That's not how hair works! He then realized that he looked like 2 other people, Jeff and Jane. "Oh my God!" Jeff yelled, clearly upset, almost crying. The nurse put her arm around John, telling him that it would be okay, and in time with more surgery, he would look completely almost. That's not how surgery works! John spent the next few days at the hospital. He was trying to cope with what happened. A part of him liked it. It was like an odd feeling, but more intense. He was having trouble remembering things that happened to him. His memories are screwed up by this traumatic event. It's not how memories work! He was more confused by anything. Then, one night, Jeff snuck in. "Hello, John," he said in that voice. Okay, how the fuck does this happen? Clearly, Jeff the Killer, who is a countrywide known phenomenon, a serial killer who killed many people, who is known to be in this area, who tried to burn this kid alive. Why does that kid get absolutely no police officers guarding or watching the room? Jesus fuck, this story's stupid. "Jeff?" John said, barely remembering things. "That's not how memory works!" "Brother?" John asked in his dazed state. "Come on, I'm getting you out of this place," Jeff said. He grabbed John and pulled him out of the window. John didn't seem to care that he was still confused, and even more so after Jeff called him his brother. Jeff handed him a pair of gray jeans and a white t-shirt and a black hoodie to wear instead of the hospital gown that he had been wearing. John quickly changed and grinned at Jeff. Jeff handed John the kitchen knife. John instead could spike up. John insisted that he could spike up his hair like he always used to. Jeff broke into the nearby store and stole some hair gel for John to use. Maybe killing the clerk on his way, but neither John or Jeff might. Maybe, did he kill the clerk or no? Oh my God, there's times like this where I wish I was an alcoholic. But did he kill the clerk or no? I don't know, because it says maybe. Jeff and John left the town of West Valley after a few days. They then went on to the next town. They went to town and found a group of drunken girls wandering around. Jeff decided to help them. Jeff and John both attacked the girls, with Jeff telling them to go to sleep, John not really saying anything. Jeff tried to get John to carve a smile onto his face, but John refused to. He wore a crazy smile most of the time anyway, so he didn't feel it was necessary. It felt good to help Jeff, but a part of him was upset and even guilty at the very idea of what he was doing. It's not how memories work! Neither of them realized that Jane had followed them. She had seen John with Jeff, and although he had changed, she still recognized him. She was angry at what Jeff had done to him. She went in to attack them both. John recognized Jane as well, but couldn't remember much of her. It wasn't long until a fight broke out between them. Jeff and Jane went at it, an all-out knife fight. John was not sure what to do. Jane swung at Jeff with impressive speed. However, Jeff dodged and made an attack of his own. Just like Pokemon, Jeff used his knife. Jane, dodge. Yeah! John was watching the two of them, confused for many reasons. What had made them fight so intensely? The two of them, should he help? And 3, okay. 2, who should help them? And 3, did he remember Jane from? John wanted to help Jeff, but also knew somewhere deep down that Jane had good reasons, so he decided it was not best to get involved at all. Jane finally got past Jeff and hurried up to grab oh my god! Just fucking kill the guy you've been trying to kill! Fuck John! Fuck John! Shut up, I'm trying to help you, Jane yelled at the kid. I don't need help, let me go! John yelled as he started kicking. John, Jeff isn't your friend. Don't you remember? Jane asked. John quieted down, but just looked at her. He wasn't sure what to think now. Some part of John wanted to trust her, but another part wanted to trust Jeff. Jane kept John with her for a few more days. He constantly struggled and tried to escape, but she stopped him every time. One day, John even killed a random teen walking past during his stay with Jane. Nothing too gory or worth talking about. Then why do you mention it in your story? Jane yelled at him, trying to convince him that wasn't... They had to be like Jeff. You crazy kid. You shouldn't be killing those kids. I'm sorry. I don't want to kill, but I can't help it. John says, suddenly crying. His face lost that crazy smile. His eyes showed sadness and even fear. Fear of himself, or of Jeff, or whatever part of him made him want to act like Jeff. He was crying as Jane tried to do her best to comfort him. She could admit that she had an outburst during which people she killed, imagining that the person was Jeff, using it as practice. So you're saying that this chick killed people to practice killing Jeff? You bitch! You don't understand. These are human lives they are talking about, and they are being cannon fodder for a story. They are being turned into faceless people that we shouldn't give a shit about, but it makes the characters unlikable. Jeff is supposed to be, Jane is supposed to be the good guy, but she kills people too for no reason. No reason at all. 1 year later. John was still slightly confused. His face showed nothing but pure insanity. More often than not, he sometimes snapped back to reality. Snap back to reality. Oh my god. Eminem. And cried about the stuff he'd done. Jeff tells him he is weak. Wait, did Jane? Okay. Okay, so apparently Jeff did eventually find Jane and took him. Whatever, fuck it. John spends most of his time with Jeff, who sometimes wanders off on his own. And he can do as long as he wants. And he can go even as long as a month without Jeff. He's never found Jane again, although he tries often. However, John remains hesitant about what exactly he should be doing. Okay. He's even been known to warn his victims before killing them. Yeah, because clearly it's easy to kill people when you warn them. John is still out there, and it's possible you might run into him. If he's in a normal mood, then there's nothing to worry about. He might talk to you about his life, might just hang out, act pretty much like a normal kid. But if you find him in an insane mood, or when he's with Jeff, watch out. He'll most likely be killed, and the last thing you want to hear from John is this simple question. Should you go to sleep? Well, you can just shove the story up your ass! God! I've never read something so stupid, so retarded, so dumb, that I honestly think I lost brain cells. I can read Why Sonic R. I can read, you know, Super Smash Bros. Bra or whatever, but this is garbage. Just pure garbage. Oh my god. Oh my god. With Sonic R, you know it's gonna be stupid because it's a Sonic story. With Super Smash Bros, maybe it could offer something good, but it's so terribly written that you go in there knowing it's gonna be bad. But you know what we got here? We got something that has potential. It's written decently. There's clearly effort here. But instead of writing a story that makes sense, this is deviant art, lunchroom drama to the freaking extreme. I don't know what to even think. My voice hurts from all the yelling. This story is terrible. And the thing is, it could have been a good story. John didn't need to be there. The physics of how life works don't make sense. This now memory works! And yeah. This has been John the Killer. And if you're watching this on either the full CRAPPYPASTA video or just a CRAPPYPASTA video that contains John the Killer, then good luck. Good fucking luck to you. I mean it. Good luck. Ah. My head hurts. There should be Ted the Caver out this Friday. Enjoy.